Hello, Whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. I bought the house for the silence. That's what I told myself anyway. After everything, after the call stopped coming, after the divorce papers were signed with more relief than regret, after I stopped remembering how it felt to wake up next to someone who wanted me, I needed quiet. I thought silence would be healing, but silence has a way of filling itself. The property listing was bare bones, 3 photos, no walkthrough, just a rural farmhouse upstate, built before the Cold War, sold through a foreclosure site for a price that made no sense. I didn't care. I wired the deposit and packed everything I still cared about into the back of a borrowed pickup. By the time I reached the road leading to the house, the rain had turned aggressive. Heavy sheets hammered the windshield, obscuring the driveway until my tires were already halfway down the gravel slope. It didn't feel like arriving. It felt like being swallowed. The house sat at the edge of the woods. 2 stories, sloped roof, crooked windows. The kind of place you'd expect to see on a faded postcard from a state no one visits anymore. It leaned slightly to the left, like it was tired of holding itself up. Moss clung to the shingles like a second skin. No lights, no warmth, just dark wood and darker windows reflecting a sky I didn't want to look at. Inside, the house felt colder than it should have been. The air had that damp, uncirculated taste of abandonment. It was too quiet. Even with the storm still raging outside, the interior absorbed sound like insulation packed with wet wool. My footsteps were muffled. The floorboards groaned under my weight, but even that seemed half-hearted. I should have left that night, driven back to the city, begged my friend for the couch again, tried to pretend that loneliness wasn't curdling inside me. But I didn't, because the truth is, some part of me wanted the house to hurt. I slept on the living room floor, no furniture yet, just a sleeping bag, a jug of water, and a folding knife under my pillow. The sound of the storm faded into nothing sometime after midnight. What replaced it was worse. Stillness. No creaks, no pipes groaning, no wind. Just silence thick enough to press on the skin. And in that silence, I started to notice things I shouldn't have, like how every mirror in the house had been removed, every single one. In the upstairs bathroom, I found the warped outline of where a medicine cabinet used to be, the wall scarred where it had been ripped off. One of the bedrooms had a closet that locked from the outside. The attic hatch had been painted shut recently, thick brush strokes, still tacky. And in the hallway, nailed over the windows, were blackout curtains so old and stiff they cracked when I touched them. They hadn't just been hung, they'd been sealed. It didn't feel like someone had lived here. It felt like someone had hidden here. I told myself it was all in my head. That isolation was amplifying everything. I even laughed a little when I found the basement, half expecting it to be filled with taxidermy or dusty survivalist gear. Instead, it was almost empty. A washer and dryer sat in one corner, unplugged and rust-streaked. An old workbench lined the far wall, and under the stained rug, pressed flat against the concrete floor, was something I didn't expect. A trapdoor, steel, industrial, with a keypad lock bolted into its surface, blinking red. There was no handle, no labels, no seams. It looked like something you'd find in a bunker or a military installation. I tried a few random numbers. The light stayed red. Then I just stood there for a while, staring at it. A cold sensation crawling up my spine like a trickle of ice water. Eventually, I backed away, told myself it didn't matter, locked the basement door behind me. That should have been the end of it. But the house, it gives you things. That night, while pacing the hallway upstairs, I stepped on a loose board. It shifted underfoot with a hollow knock. I knelt down and pried it up. Beneath, wrapped in waxy paper, was a key. Iron, old, cold in my hand despite the warmth of the room. The paper it was wrapped in had words scrawled in faded red ink. Most of it was illegible. Water damage and time had eaten the message, but two words remained, smeared and shaky. Don't answer. I stared at the key. I stared at the words. Then I went back to the basement. The keypad blinked red again. I slid the key into the small circular lock just below the keypad. It fit too perfectly to be a coincidence. And turned. The trap door hissed, not loudly, just enough to sound like something was exhaling. And beneath it, stairs. Steep, narrow, and swallowed by darkness. I stood at the top for what felt like a full minute, flashlight in one hand, the other resting on the open hatch. Something about the air smelled wrong, like plastic burning under wet leaves. The concrete walls were too smooth, and the space between them was unnaturally narrow, as if the stairwell had been cut by something that didn't quite understand human dimensions. I went down, 10 steps, then 20. The cold hit me like a slap halfway down. My breath fogged in front of me. The flashlight flickered, then stabilized. My boots echoed. Each step sounded like it took me further from the world. At the bottom, the stairs opened into a room about the size of a box truck, concrete reinforced with steel braces. A rusted generator hummed lowly in the corner, casting faint vibrations through the floor. There were no windows, no vents, just a single cot, a shelf of long-expired food, and the soft sound of breath. He was sitting in the corner, pale, shirtless, thin, not startled, not afraid, just watching me. At first, I thought he was a hallucination, my brain overclocking from stress. But then he moved, slow, deliberate. His eyes caught mine. They were jaundiced, bloodshot, set deep into sockets that looked bruised with weeks, no, months of sleep deprivation. But the worst part wasn't the look in them. It was what was carved into his back. Tally marks, hundreds, some fresh, some scarred over. He tilted his head like a dog trying to recognize its owner and asked, calmly, evenly, "They're still up there, aren't they?" My throat tightened. "What?" I croaked. "Who the hell are you?" "I didn't open the hatch," he muttered. "Not for 3 years. I heard them scratching, pretending to be wind, but I didn't answer." I took a step back. My flashlight trembled in my grip. "You're trespassing. You need help. I'll call someone." He shook his head slowly. "They don't come when you call," he said. "Not anymore. Not since the sky changed." Something in my gut folded in on itself. I turned to leave. My heart was a clenched fist. I was halfway up the stairs when his voice floated after me, soft, almost kind. "You smell like the wind." "You've already seen them." I slammed the hatch behind me, locked it, and ran upstairs, locked that door too, then stood in the kitchen, shaking, waiting for something, anything to make sense. The rain had stopped, but when I looked out the window, the stars weren't where they should have been. The clouds weren't moving, and the moon had teeth. The sky was watching. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my sleeping bag on the living room floor, flashlight in one hand, knife in the other, and stared at the ceiling until it stopped looking like a ceiling. At some point, it became just another blank surface, one of many. I kept thinking I heard footsteps above me, not heavy ones, soft, measured, like someone tiptoeing barefoot across the upstairs hallway. The basement door was locked. I jammed a piece of pipe I found in the kitchen broom closet beneath the knob, wedged tight. Still didn't help. The silence in this house presses against you. It listens. It waits for you to ask the wrong question out loud. I didn't speak all night. Morning came like a punishment. No birdsong, no wind, no creaks from the foundation or sighs from the plumbing. The light that trickled through the windows felt artificial, cold and gray blue, like something mimicking sunlight but forgetting the warmth. I opened the front door, needing to see the world. Something, anything that would remind me I wasn't alone in some sealed-off dimension. I stepped outside and stopped cold. The sky wasn't right. It was too flat, not just blue, sterile, like it had been scrubbed clean. A vacuum-sealed sheet stretched over the world. The clouds, what few there were, hovered, suspended in place like props hung from invisible string. The trees didn't move. The tall grass didn't sway. Not a single leaf rustled. I held my breath and listened. Nothing. No wind, no insects, no far-off barking dogs or engines on distant roads. It was like someone had paused the world. A single drop of sweat slid down my back, not from heat, from pressure. Something was watching me from above, not from the trees, not from the windows, from the damn sky. I backed toward the door without turning my head. I didn't look up. I didn't want to know what was looking back. Inside, I sealed the door, locked both deadbolts, and dragged a pile of flattened moving boxes in front of it. The nausea hit me immediately. That same static pressure behind my eyes I'd felt in the basement. It came on fast and left me seeing double for a heartbeat, long enough for the room to feel slightly off, like it had shifted 3 inches to the left. I blinked. The room corrected itself, for now. I started searching the house, looking for anything to ground me, a connection to the outside world, an old phone line, a signal booster, a cable box, a CB radio, anything. I didn't find any of those. What I did find was buried behind the wall of the hall closet, tucked between drywall and insulation. a small portable cassette recorder, the kind from the 80s, dusty but intact. There was a tape inside, labeled in shaky red marker, Test 12. They know the pattern. I stared at it a long time before pressing play. At first, only static. Then a woman's voice, hushed, panicked, barely above a whisper, as if she thought the tape could hear her. They only come when you remember the pattern. Don't trace the sky. Don't knock back. Don't knock back. Don't. The audio cut, then returned, but not as the woman. This time it was a voice like dry wind and broken glass. I know you're listening. The tape stopped. I hadn't touched it. I rewound, played again. Static. Nothing. No voice, not even the whisper. Just the empty hiss of tape spinning on dry reels. I placed the recorder on the kitchen counter and stepped back. My hand was shaking. Then I noticed it. There was a faint, fresh handprint on the condensation-fogged window above the sink, but only on the inside. Sometime later, I found a room upstairs that felt preserved. Not intact, there was no furniture, but the floor held the imprint of a bed frame, dust-free lines where drawers had been, a darker patch on the wall where a photo frame once hung, and in that spot, now pinned crookedly with a rusty nail, was a Polaroid. A woman in her late 30s, standing in the yard, smiling, but behind her, the sky was black, not a night sky, just solid black, featureless, like it had been cut out. No clouds, no sun, no light. I reached up to pull it off the wall and caught my reflection in the glass. Something was behind me. I spun. Nothing. Just the empty room. But in the photo, I could still see it. A faint shape in the background. Human-sized, standing in the hallway, watching. That night I heard knocking, not from the basement, from the attic. 3 soft knocks, then silence. I stood at the base of the attic hatch, the flashlight trembling in my grip. The paint-sealed edge now showed fresh cracks, like it had been pushed from the inside. I heard a voice, not a word, just a drawn breath, like someone preparing to speak. I turned away. I didn't go up. I went down. The basement greeted me like a throat. Cold, damp. The air had weight. The trapdoor hatch was closed tight. I unlocked it with the iron key, pressed it open, and descended the concrete steps with the flashlight held close to my chest like a shield. The generator was off. My beam cut through still, wet air. Condensation clung to the walls. The smell was worse than before, coppery and sweet like decaying flowers and old blood. "Hello?" I whispered. From the darkness came a reply. Not spoken exactly, more like a presence uncoiling in the air. Then the beam found him. He sat in the far corner, knees drawn to his chest, rocking slowly, eyes open, lips moving in silence. I approached slowly, the concrete slick beneath my boots. He was muttering a name over and over. Garrett Lansing. Garrett Lansing. Garrett Lansing didn't leave. Garrett Lansing stayed beneath. A torn Noah jacket lay beside him, name patch intact. G. Lansing. I crouched. Garrett, I said, you're with Noah. You worked for the weather service. His lips paused. Then I watched the sky too long, tracked the wrong shapes. The weather changed. The rules changed. But they told me to keep recording. Who did? The Skyborn. That's what I call them now. Doesn't matter, they don't need names. I swallowed hard. What are they? He finally looked at me. They don't live in the sky. They are the sky. What you see is just their skin. The light? That's their breath. The stars, just pinholes in the veil. He reached toward the ceiling and laughed, a dry, rattling sound. They convince the clouds to stay still. Isn't that beautiful? I took a step back. You're sick? No, he said, voice low. I'm infected with understanding. The flashlight flickered. I looked down at it for less than a second. When I looked up, he was closer, inches from me. No sound, no movement, just there. Do you know what they feed on? He whispered. I tried to move. My limbs resisted. My brain said run, but my body said listen. Attention. Once you see them, once you know, they can't unsee you either. I turned and climbed the stairs. I didn't say goodbye. He didn't try to stop me. I sealed the hatch, then the basement door, then dragged every box, every board, every shelf I could find against it. My arms trembled. My vision swam. Sometime after 2 a.m., the house went black. Every light died. The emergency radio, still sealed in plastic, crackled on by itself. No music, no warning tone. Just 5 words in a voice I didn't recognize. Stay beneath, they are here. The radio didn't say anything else, just those 5 words. Stay beneath, they are here. Then silence, the kind of silence that makes your teeth feel loose, the kind that waits for you to ask a question. I didn't ask. I sat there in the dark, flashlight off to save the battery, knife in my hand, back pressed to the living room wall, watching shadows shift across the wood floor that shouldn't have existed without light. I tried not to think about Garrett, about the way he moved when I wasn't watching, the way he whispered his own name like a shield. But mostly I tried not to think about the sky, not what it was, what I was beginning to accept it might be, but what it could be doing right now. At some point I passed out, not sleep, just a shut-off. When I came to, the house was silent again, but the faintest gray light filtered through the cracks in the nailed-down curtains. The air had changed, heavier, clingy, like the humidity wasn't just water, but something thicker, a presence that sweated through the drywall. My tongue felt dry, my stomach turned. I needed water badly. My last jug was nearly empty. The kitchen tap hadn't worked since I arrived, and I hadn't exactly planned for long-term survival, which meant only one thing. I had to go outside. It took me nearly an hour to work up to it. I made sure the basement door was barricaded. I double-checked every window. I stood at the front door with my hand on the knob, breathing through clenched teeth. The radio hadn't spoken again. The attic hadn't knocked again, but I still felt it. That pressure from above, the weight in my chest every time I thought about looking up. I stepped outside. Everything looked the same. Too still. Too perfect. The clouds were in the exact same position as yesterday. Identical shapes, identical spacing, as if the sky had been copy-pasted from the last time I saw it. No wind, no birds, no insects. Even my footprints in the grass from the day before hadn't faded. I knelt to touch one and found it slightly damp, as though it had just been made. Time wasn't moving, or at least not forward. I made my way around the house to the old pump well. The rope was dry-rotted, but the bucket itself looked usable. I lowered it slowly into the dark and prayed there was something left to draw up. A minute passed, then two. Then the rope jerked, not down, but to the side. Something tugged the bucket sharply. I dropped the rope and backed up, heart hammering, ears ringing. No splash, no sound, just the rope twitching once more, then falling still. I left it. There was a small tool shed at the edge of the property, where the grass started blending into wild, unkempt woods. I made my way toward it, one eye on the sky, forcing myself not to really look, but I could feel it. The same way you feel someone watching you from a second-story window at night. You can't see them, but you know where they are. You know what they want. I reached the shed and tried the door. Locked. I circled it once and found the back panel warped open. I slipped inside, ducking low. It smelled like rust and oil and old wet hay. I found a gas can, half full, not ideal, but maybe enough to try the generator again. I found a sealed jug of water that expired 10 years ago, but desperation beats fear of dysentery. And I found something else. A mirror, just one, about the size of a dinner plate, leaned against the wall under an old canvas tarp. The glass was cracked, but intact. There hadn't been a single mirror in the house. I reached for it, then stopped, because something was in the reflection. Not behind me, not beside me, above me. I tilted my head just slightly to look at it straight, but when I did, it was gone. The mirror showed nothing, but I still felt it, just overhead, just outside the frame of comprehension, the kind of wrong your brain won't let you see unless you're already broken enough to accept it. I grabbed the mirror and turned it around, backward. No image, no reflection, no glass, just teeth etched into the silver backing like bite marks. Back inside, I locked the door behind me and drank the entire jug of expired water without breathing between swallows. I didn't throw up, but I wanted to. The pressure behind my eyes was worse, a constant static hum, like radio snow dancing through my optic nerves. I sat on the floor and opened the journal I found earlier, the one under the floorboards near the key. It wasn't just blank pages. Scrawled inside the front cover, in the same red ink handwriting as the key wrapping, was a single line: "The sky won't stop until you forget how to blink." Beneath that, a drawing, crude, a human figure with its eyes gouged out, standing beneath a spiral sky filled with rows of jagged lines, teeth, not clouds. Underneath that, join the horizon. I tore the page out and folded it shut. I heard the generator kick on below me. I ran to the basement door. The barricade was undisturbed, the lock still engaged, but I could hear it, the low, familiar hum, the bunker generator. Running, I unlocked the door and stood at the top of the basement stairs, flashlight on, knife still in my pocket. "Garrett," I called. Silence. I crept downward, one step, then two, then knocking from the attic. 3 soft knocks, then a pause, then 3 more. And then, "I see you," whispered, from above and inside. I ran, not up, not down, outside. I threw open the front door and stumbled outside, gasping like I'd surfaced from drowning. I looked up, not directly, just enough to catch the clouds. They were smiling, I swear to God, the clouds were smiling. Each shape was a curled lip, a gleaming tooth, a mocking face frozen in cotton. And the sun, it blinked. I should never have looked up. The second I did, just that glance, that accidental moment, something changed. Not just outside, not just the sky. Me, the edges of the world came undone. My skin started buzzing, not on the surface, beneath, like my nerves had been peeled up and turned outward. I couldn't close my eyes without seeing those smiling clouds, the way the sun blinked like a camera shutter. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just sat on the porch until the light shifted. Only it didn't shift. The sun didn't move at all. It just hung there, motionless, like a fishing lure waiting for something below. Eventually, I stumbled back inside. The house didn't greet me, it rejected me. The shadows were all wrong. They bled sideways across the floor, stretching into corners they didn't belong. The air tasted like plastic and pennies. Every breath felt processed, pre-chewed. I walked down the hall, slow and dizzy. My boots made no sound on the floorboards. I passed the kitchen and saw that the clock on the microwave had reset. 0000. And yet, the hands on my watch spun in slow, jerky circles. I opened the fridge out of habit. There was a photo on the inside wall, a Polaroid, held up by a rusted magnet. It showed me, standing in the yard, smiling. Behind me, the sky was black, a swirling mass like an oil spill frozen mid-motion, and the clouds were teeth. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "You brought them with you." The house groaned, not like wood settling. It groaned like something digesting. I backed away. My foot hit something soft. I looked down. A shoe. My shoe. Only I hadn't taken mine off. It was lying perfectly aligned beside a pair of jeans and a flannel shirt, folded like someone had vanished into the air and left their clothes behind. My clothes. The generator was still humming. The sound came from the basement. I unlocked the door and felt a burst of cold air press up against me like an exhale from a tomb. The hatch was open, no key required. The light from the stairwell spilled down in long, oily beams. I took the flashlight with me, even though I already knew it would flicker. Everything that gave off light down here flickered, like they were trying not to show what was real. I descended the steps and entered the bunker. Garrett was gone. The cot sat empty. The food shelf was gone. Even the damn radio was missing. The tally marks on the walls remained. Fresh. Too fresh. Some of them still beaded with blood. In the center of the far wall, something new had been smeared into the concrete, using ash or soot, or both. The sky is not high. It waits below. I turned in slow circles. The air was heavier now, thicker, like breathing through syrup. In the corner where Garrett had once sat, a small recorder blinked red. I pressed play. His voice was faint, tired, guttural. The sky has proximity, not height. You think you're beneath it. You never were. You're inside it. A pause. Then, if you can still see yourself, you're not you anymore. The tape stopped. I stared down at my hands. They were mine. Still scarred, still shaking. But I wasn't sure anymore. Back upstairs, something had changed. The curtains had been torn down. Every window now showed only one thing. Me. But not a reflection. Each window showed a different version of me, in motion, one pacing, one crying, one standing in the front yard, staring at the sky, and in the dining room, I saw myself asleep at the table, head resting on folded arms. I stepped into the room. The chair was empty, but the impression of weight still lingered in the cushion. I felt a hand on my shoulder. I spun. No one, just the hallway, just the attic door, still sealed, still waiting. I climbed the attic steps like I was ascending into the belly of something that had already swallowed me. The painted seal had peeled away on its own. The hatch opened easily, like it had been waiting for me. Inside was dust, discarded furniture, shapes half lost beneath tarps that shifted with every breath I took. The air was thinner up here, tighter in the chest. The boards beneath my feet pulsed faintly, like I was walking on something alive. There were no windows, only the ceiling, a single skylight, cracked but intact, looking straight up. I didn't want to see it, but I did. I stepped beneath the glass and tilted my head just enough to glimpse the sky. It had changed again. The clouds were gone. The blue was gone. Only a slick black field stretched above me, swirling in impossible geometry, like a pupil dilating across the heavens. The sun pulsed once, twice, and then opened like an eye. I fell to my knees, my nose bled, my vision swam, but I couldn't look away. Lightning slithered through the sky in curling, intelligent veins, not down, but across, horizontal, like fingers brushing the edge of the atmosphere. It wasn't a sky anymore. It was a membrane, and something on the other side was pressing against it. There was no wind, no sound, but my ears rang with a pressure that felt like a voice. You are within range. The boards beneath me creaked, not like they were breaking, but like they were peeling back. I looked down. The attic floor was gone. Just sky, sky below, sky above, sky pressing inward from every direction. I opened my mouth to scream, and the world blinked